Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the St. Charles County Council meeting. I would like to introduce Dr. Buddy Perstrope of First Baptist Church of St. Charles, who will provide our invocation, and Councilman Member Joe Cronin will lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
All right, let's pray together. Lord, I pray for the decisions that will be made tonight and for these men who are leaders. I pray for those men and women who share in leadership throughout our county. I pray that you would give them great wisdom and discernment, and help them to have a heart for you and a heart for the people. I pray that in all their ways they would acknowledge you so that you will direct their path. And Lord, we do pause to pray for those who in our own county are hurting tonight with the recent disasters. I pray for great grace. I pray that you would provide great mercy for them. Again, we just pray for your presence and for your leadership tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donna, Carol, please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel. Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Okay. Next on our agenda is public comments. We'll allow speakers to approach the council on any topic.
Excuse me, it's the public hearing on the master plan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, first we have the public hearing on the master plan, Envision 2025. I am sorry. Comments? So, yes. Thank you.
What I'd like to do is just give you a very brief overview of the master plan that we've been engaged in preparing. As you know, or may know, the county charter requires that we review the master plan at least every 5 years. In the past, we have gone through a very extensive effort in preparing that new plan. But as we look at what has occurred over the last 5 years, basically going into a recession or in a recession or trying to climb out of a recession, there hasn't been a lot of growth, subdivision development, even population growth. And so what we, in considering that when we last did the master plan, we had a very extensive public involvement effort in doing that. It involved having a lot of public forums. We had a task force dealing with preparing concepts of the land use plan, and we didn't want to throw all of that away, considering that just not a lot has changed, unfortunately, in the last 5 years. So what we ended up doing is we reviewed what was accomplished in that plan and made some adjustments to it. We updated the background studies of regarding demographics, the physical, social, economic conditions and trends. That background data is all contained in the appendix of this plan. We updated the plan with a new logo and colors. I got caught right in the middle of that change, and so with the help of Colleen, we were able to get that all upgraded. We retained the community issues that were identified by the previous master plan steering committee and all of the people that were involved in that process, as well as the community visions that were established for the various elements of the plan. We also retained, for the most part, all of the goals and strategies that were contained in that previous plan. We did add some new ones relating to economic development. And the last thing that we did do is we updated the land use plan, not with a lot of change. We incorporated the 2 plan amendments we had over the last 5 years and made some other small tweaks to the land use plan, but it is substantially the same as the one that we have now. The thoroughfare plan has changed somewhat in that we've refocused or had a little more focus on where these locations for arterial systems really needed to be, and we tried to make certain that they were more physically located where, not going through a ravine or through somebody's house. We almost got Councilman Cronin's, but we'll be better at it next time. So what I want to do now is just highlight some of the background findings that is contained within the appendix of this new plan. One, we deal with demographics, and we're projecting that our 2025 county population should be around 446,000 people. Previously, for 2020, we were almost projecting the same amount of growth. It's basically slipped 5+ years. As it relates to that growth, we've made some estimates based upon where the land is available and some other factors. Where will that population likely go? About 78% of that is going to end up in the western part of the county. And I've divided the county west and east by a line drawn on Highway 79, 70, and Interstate 64. I think you can see that red line on there. And so from a population standpoint, we're expecting that the growth up through 2025, 76,000 people will reside west of that line that are not currently there, and we will still continue our infill within that Golden Triangle area with another 21,000 people. As it relates to economics, we're still the fastest growing economy in the state, and we account for 6.4% of the state's economy. As our population growth increases, we will be increasing primary job employment, and our labor force will be increasing. Currently, the 2011 census reports that we have 51% of the county's employed labor force employed within the county, and 49% of the labor force is employed outside of the county. This is the number of people employed within the county has been increasing every decennial census. And from just a household income basis, based upon 2011, the median family and household incomes were the highest in the 8-county region. And by 2012, our unemployment rate had finally dropped back down to 6%, and hopefully it will continue to go lower.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before you leave that,
Sure.
the fastest growing economy in the state, is it fastest growing or the largest? Because doesn't St. Louis
Yep.
County and Jackson County have?
I don't know the answer to the question.
Okay. I mean, I've seen that number before, but I'm pretty sure St. Louis County is larger.
Yeah.
But we're the fastest growing.
Fastest growing, maybe percentage-wise, yeah.
Okay.
Or whatever, yeah. Looking at where people are employed, just like almost every place else in the country, over the last several years, the gains in employment have been in retail, trade, finance and insurance, and services. And as this graph is showing, that there between 2002 and 2010, we had decreases in employment in construction and manufacturing. However, we're expecting that should see a turnaround in the next several years as construction again picks up and as employment at particularly the GM plant and all of its feeder industries should help reverse some of those numbers. When we look at community facilities and where growth can possibly locate, one of the things that is highly important is your community wastewater systems. And most of the capacity and the planning for future growth has been out to the west and is shown in this area in pink. And that's why a lot of the population growth and the housing development in the future will be located out in this portion of the county. Again, community facilities, while we do not have education as one of our governmental functions at the county, it's still an important thing that we have to look at as it relates to economic development. 68% of the jobs that are going to be created are reported to be created between 2010 and 2018 will require some kind of college degree, associates or higher. 45% of the people within St. Charles County already have that, and what we have seen within the county over each decennial census is our percentage of population with those advanced degrees are going up. And so we are at least keeping pace with that, but it also shows how important that is going to be in the future as far as job growth and development. Of course, our county parks create the kind of environment that we like and that a lot of people would probably envy. We have a substantial park system with proposed expansions, both in the county system and the municipal park system, and we have a significant amount of acreage in wildlife preserves, and then the Katy Trail and all of those facilities, which just lends to the quality of life that we have here and will help us to continue to grow in the future. Transportation is also a vital link, and as you all know and have participated, along with the leadership of the county executive, have created the arterial systems that we need not only for our population that is here, but for what we will become in the future. And but it will always take a certain amount of vigilance to keep ahead of that curve. And so one of the things that we're focusing on in the plan that will need to be accomplished, and you've heard some discussions about this in the past from John Greifsue, is we're going to need to focus on I-70 corridor and the Highway N corridor in the future. Natural resources, typically you think of soils and rock conditions and flooding and whatnot, but the thing that I am focusing on is stormwater management and our MS4 permitting process. That is going to be a continuing challenge as we get more federal regulation on stormwater issues. And with most of our growth occurring out in the west, you can see, particularly in this area, those two drainage systems flows into this area that is already highly developed. And anytime that you have development, you're going to have additional water that wasn't flowing before because of the impervious surfaces. And so with that and additional federal regulations, we will have some challenges in this area in the near future. Land use, 30% of the land area is incorporated, 70% is unincorporated. Based upon our population growth that is projected, we also projected what kind of land uses we would need within the various categories: commercial, industrial, office, government, and so forth. Residential consumes most of the land that will be developed in the future. And just to give you some additional perspective on what that could potentially mean is, I already talked about what the population would be and where it would go. Well, that means that by 2025, we'll need about 8,700 acres will be utilized for single-family and multifamily development in the western portion of the county, with another almost 2,500 acres being developed within that Golden Triangle area. To put it in different terms, almost 29,000 housing units will be built or will be needed in that western part of the county, with about another 8,000 in the Golden Triangle or the other portions in the eastern portion of the county. So a significant amount of growth. That's just some highlights of the background information that goes into this plan, and that's all contained within the plan, within the appendix. The plan itself is broken down into a vision for the element, demographics, economics, what's our vision. We identify the various issues that people thought we would be having to contend with over this period, this planning period of time. And they identified goals and strategies to address those issues and to achieve that vision. And then the last two elements of the plan itself is the future land use plan and the thoroughfare plan. So the plan format within the document will look something like this, containing the vision statement, the issues, and the goals and strategies. I went through the plan and just picked out, I think, some highlights of some of the issues that were identified. Again, 78% of the population growth is expected to occur in the western part of the county. Going to create a lot of opportunities and challenges for us to deal with, and for some of the incorporated places to also deal with. We still need to encourage the development of high-end office and research parks. The Missouri Research Park is basically filled, and we probably need to concentrate on another one. Educational attainment is going to still be something that will dictate to some degree our economic development future. Opportunities, we still need to develop or find opportunities for parkland in some of these developing areas. And we are still going to be addressing homelessness. And as you know, we have a homeless program within our CDBG funding that we try to address, along with some of the homeless and indigent dollars that the council funds. But that's going to be a continuing issue for us to deal with over time. The diversity of health services is going to increase based upon the diversity of the population as it increases. Transportation infrastructure, I've already talked about that. Stormwater management, and the demand for rental apartment housing is not being met at all. We basically do not have any vacancy within rental units. You may have 5%. When you get down to 5%, that's basically what you have when somebody moves out and just before somebody else moves in. And so we have a very critical shortage, which can have a number of consequences as it relates to growth and development. And finally, the preservation of existing housing stock is going to continue to be something that we must focus efforts on to make sure that our neighborhoods and our neighborhoods that are getting older are preserved and stable and providing a decent place to live. The land use concepts, we have 9 of those, and I'm just going to briefly address one of those. What we have indicated within this plan is that urban development should be focused within urban service areas. Urban service areas are defined on the map. Those are basically those areas of the county that already have urban services, sewer, water, or have the potential to expand those services. We still have basically the same land use categories that were contained in the previous plan. We just added a sub-category under agriculture, which is the agricultural tourism area and zoning district that we created just last year. And so we finally get to, this is the future land use plan for the county. Again, it is very close to the same thing, the same plan that was contained in the previous plan. And the thoroughfare plan is the plan that shows where the arterials will be needed to accommodate that growth and development of the future. And so with that, we have the Master Plan Steering Committee has forwarded to you for your review and approval the master plan for the county, Envision 2025. The plan is currently on the Community Development Department's website at cd.scmo.org, and it's available for people to read and download, and the department will also have the plan on CDs, and this year we'll do a very limited amount of printing. What we have seen from past experience is that when people can now see the thing on the website or get it on a CD, it's a lot easier than having the paper documents. So we'll have a few of them available, but we're not going to go out and print up massive quantities that we will probably still have the next 5-year segment of planning. So with that, that's my presentation as it relates to the Master Plan Steering Committee's recommendation to you.
Okay. Questions right here?
If at all possible, I don't know if anybody's proposed this, but in future development in the western part of the county, if we could coordinate it between our parks and future growth of subdivisions and so forth, and create some regional detention basins versus small detention basins in every subdivision that's built, I think that would serve two purposes: help deal with future stormwater issues, not only in that part of the county, but already exist flowing into the eastern part of the county. So I don't know if anybody's proposed that idea at all, or if it's workable. I think it could be coordinated with the Parks Department so that we create some nice lakes that also serve as detention basins.
The idea has been bantered around a little bit, but I don't think anybody has spent a lot of effort in really seeing what could possibly be done. It's probably something that does need some more exploration, and not only whether you centralize it or it's even looking at our current laws as it relates to what kind of impact these detention basins are really having on stormwater and flooding prevention. I would propose in a lot of cases they're only dealing with the top 20% of storms, not the 80% that we would consider normal.
And I think, if we actually created a stormwater fund that developments would contribute to, it would help pay for the cost of those recreational basins.
Yeah, again, it probably needs some thought and review.
Yes, Joe.
I got a couple questions or points. Weighing on the lots available, I think one point you want to strike on is what was it that the conversation there is, what is it, 8,500 lots available still in the county? Isn't that the number?
The last time that I went, that we examined how many lots we had was about 3 years ago, and it was in excess of 9,000 platted lots that were not developed.
So just so you know, that was taken into consideration because those have to be developed. A lot of them are foreclosed lots too. They just
Some of them could be, yes.
utilities. So yeah, and that was one point that we talked about.
Yeah. And that availability also goes into where are those available at, and where they could potentially develop in the future and accommodate some of the population growth. And a lot of those are out in the western portion of the county.
And then I was going to say Joanne, but maybe it's for you, Harold. On the stormwater federal mandates that these counties are seeing, and some of these erosion laws, these federal laws when it comes to building and excavating and stuff are getting somewhat excessive, in my view. What's our obligation in actually following those kind of mandates? I mean, because some of this is like so much paperwork for these guys, it's unbelievable. Even a small home builder who's going to build a home on 3 acres and clears an acre of cedar trees that anybody would do gets a fine. This is a real case too. Gets a fine from the federal government for clearing his trees on his own lot.
I can't speak to federal enforcement. I myself work with our Development Review Division, which does most of this work, essentially in enforcing our own ordinance, which is our Chapter 412. And typically, that ordinance is characteristic of other local ordinances, which basically require that developers of land who disturb over a certain amount take care, A, to make sure that erosion and water doesn't run off the site onto streets or other property or into streams, and finally, to make sure that they are properly revegetated. I can say that it has been the policy of our Development Review Division to work with developers to make sure that the ordinance is complied with rather than to impose penalties. I think I can speak for the division to say that they have largely been successful.
I guess my question is I guess, Steve, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, how are we obligated? Do we have to follow these guidelines the federal government mandates to us? Or do we lose funding, or what's that?
I'm not as familiar with this program as I am the National Flood Insurance Program. You know, we don't have to be in the National Flood Insurance Program. We can revoke all of our floodplain ordinances, but if we do, nobody get flood insurance. So I assume there's going to be the same kind of scheme here with the federal government. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it's local land use decisions have been a state and local issue for 200 years. And it's in the last 40 or 50, the federal government has used its jurisdiction over rivers, I guess, to include the water that falls on the ground that ends up in the river. So, I mean, it's creeping federal control, and, again, I'm not sure if we have to do it or not, Wayne, but if we don't, I'm sure there's serious consequences.
There is consequences. I guess it would. What we're subject to is the Federal Clean Water Act. And so it provides a variety of requirements, and those requirements have been increasing over time, and it all falls under unfunded mandates.
Well, from what I understand is the setbacks are getting bigger and bigger from waterways, which ours is 50 feet, but coming down the line, it's going to be like 100 or something?
I have not heard that. What we have heard is going to be the next set of regulations are going to be the water quality that you've got to somehow adhere to. You can only have a certain level of sediment. It can't contain these variety of chemicals within it. Somehow that's got to be retained on the site. And so that water quality issue is, I think, where we're going to see the next level of mandates from the federal government.
Yeah.
Terry? Or Mr.
Yes.
Chairman?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I mentioned the expanding jurisdiction, but it basically, if you look at the Clean Water Act, it's not very long. I think it was passed in 1968, and it basically says you can't pollute the waters of the United States. The problem is they didn't do a definition of either, left it up to regulations, which can be changed to define that. And they keep further defining the waters of the United States, like I said, to include the puddle in your backyard. And they have included the definition of pollution, which we all know what that original intent was. And now it's basically any small bit of dirt that you put in that puddle in your backyard. So, I mean, it's just a good example of how, you know, legislative intent was to do something I think we all agreed was necessary, to clean up our rivers with human waste and industrial waste. But now it's being used for an entirely different purpose. And, you know, if I was in Congress, I'd try to do something about it, but probably wouldn't be very successful.
Well, it's just becoming a concern that I agree with the true intentions and a lot of work we did 8 years ago with the county, but now it's kind of like becoming a little bit overboard, you know. But anyway, I don't know. I just sometimes think we got to be careful using sustainability and all that, you know, global warming stuff, whether or not you believe it or not. I just think you got to be really careful.
Well, I think one of the things that the administration has been very careful about is not adopting regulation that affects development within the county that isn't the same kinds of regulations that other units of government have passed. We don't want to be out there causing development to have a higher cost and everybody else having a lower cost to build in the county or their jurisdiction. And so I think we've been very careful to try to make sure that we're in with the predominant amount of regulation that has been created within the area and not get ourselves in a position where we're creating exceptional costs for development.
Any other questions? Yes.
We don't have the word sustainability in there anywhere, do we?
I don't think so.
Good.
I'm just warning. That's the first word that starts popping up.
Any other questions? Yes, Don.
Mr. Chairman, I made these similar remarks at the committee meetings, and so council members Brazel and Cronin are familiar with them. I met the other week with some members of the development community. We had previously notified those groups that we were going to be updating the master plan. They realized that they were coming to the party late, but they did want to come in and meet and express a few comments. Had some really interesting perspectives, and the purpose of me adding this is that they would like to meet with the council probably in a work session. They understand that the need to move forward here, but they'd like to meet with you at some time after this in a work session to discuss these matters. Essentially what they're saying is when you look at the master plan, the demographics and the statistics that are listed there, they exclude certain concerns, and that is, in their estimation, what the market is going to say about these demographics and whether or not certain areas are going to develop or not. They use the example of areas around Wentzville as an example, and they said, you know, there may be 6,000 or 8,000 lots in Wentzville area of a certain size, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the market can absorb all of those lots in a given period of time, because you have variables there that we can't control, and that is things like, and I'll use the example of my own kids who this past month closed on homes. One of those kids, young folks, couples, their ultimate goal was to live near St. Joe's in Cotterville. The other daughter and son-in-law, they had to have easy access to the airport because he's a pilot. One wanted a public school, one wanted private. So it wasn't merely a matter of economics. It was a matter of trying to fit their particular lifestyles into what they envisioned for their families for the years ahead.
So, long-winded way of saying, you may have 8,000 lots in Wentzville that need to be absorbed, but there are other things that come into play. Very interesting comment, in my opinion, in Councilmember Cronin's district, where at Riverdale subdivision, they were very well aware of Riverdale, who only has a handful of lots that have been purchased, and there's many platted lots out there available. It's only 7 minutes from Interstate 70 to get there, up Highway 79. So one would think that thing should go rather rapidly. But they pointed out that there's not the services in the northern part of the county in that area that would warrant people coming there. There's not the shopping available, there's not institutions available up there, and that's why they're rather concentrated south of Interstate 70. It is their belief that not only are developments not going to spread up in that area, the development that's already there, where they have a wastewater treatment plant and a water system in place, is going to be very slow to absorb those lots. So anyway, it's those perspectives I think they would like to talk with you about, and I think they have a very interesting perspective, and I think you'll enjoy listening to them and their thoughts about how to move forward in the future to get the economic growth that I think we all want.
I think we'll certainly look into scheduling and seeing when we can meet. Yes.
Going on Don's points there, one thing I think that can really change the economic demographics of this county a lot would be what John Greifshu's been working on, that ambitious plan along I-70. So I would make the suggestion, if we do have the work session, that you bring Mr. Greifshu in, because his project has a potential of revitalizing a lot of ground that could use to be redeveloped along I-70, and I think it probably, I'd like to hear what John could tell the developers and what the developers could tell John. I think it'd be an interesting conversation.
Any other comments? Speaking for the council, I'd like to thank Wayne for his presentation. It's very, very impressive and very informative. Okay. Next, we will move to public comments. Speakers approach the council on any topic. Once the topic is open for discussion, we'll only have 6 speakers allowed. We'll limit you to 3 minutes per speaker, and please fill out a card. Okay? Anyone for public comments?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A.C. Dienoff, county resident. 2 weeks ago, talking about the county executive just brought up about federal and state governments tromping on the rights of local governments, and especially St. Charles County. 2 weeks ago, I asked this county council to establish or to write and prepare a resolution for tonight's agenda. Unfortunately, it didn't make it, to oppose Senate bill dealing with the cell phone towers. I believe that Senate bill is bill number 241 that now lies on the governor's desk. As I said, I asked and pleaded with the county administration and each county council member to take a very active role and contact the governor's office to try to lobby the governor to veto and sign no on this Senate bill 241. I'd like to hear comments from each county council member to see what you've taken or what type of action, see if you've written any emails or any letters to the governor or called the governor, and I'd like to hear from the county executive the same, because I'm kind of disappointed that it's something very important. We need to retain local control of our planning and zoning measures and have public input and provide proper and adequate protection of property owner rights when it comes to cell phone communication towers. And you heard Mr. Wayne Anthony, the Director of Community Development, speak that you can't get the process done in the I believe, let me get this right, I'm not sure how many days that the legislation proposes, I forget that, but I believe Mr. Anthony said it takes 180 days or more to do the public hearings, get the public comments, do the necessary engineering, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I'd like to see that resolution be placed on the agenda, hopefully for next 2 weeks, and I'd like to hear from the county council members about what you've done to make take an active role in contacting the governor to veto it and to protect county residents' rights and also the rights of St. Charles County government. Thank you.
Any other comments on that particular topic? Okay, seeing other topics, public comments? Okay, seeing none, that closes the public comment portion of our meeting. Next on our agenda is an oral report from our county executive.
I think Mr. Anthony took all of my time.
Okay, you did a great job. Okay. All right, next is the consideration of the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, I need a motion to approve the consent. Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Okay, consent agenda has passed. Okay. Next up is bills for final passage, starting with bill number 3973.
Bill number 3973, an ordinance granting conditional use permit 18458 for a campground to Stephen Hubner.
Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none.
An ordinance granting conditional use permit 18458 for a campground to Stephen Hubner. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Okay. Bill number 3973 passes. Next bill for final passage is bill number 3974.
Bill number 3974, an ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat for the re-subdivision of adjusted Lot 24 of Ridge Creek Estates.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri, approving the preliminary plat for the re-subdivision of adjusted Lot 24 of Ridge Creek Estates. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Okay, bill number 3974 passes. Next bill for final passage is bill number 3975.
Bill number 3975, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Wentzville for a 2-inch asphalt overlay on Edingar Road at an estimated cost of $10,150, not to exceed the amount of $12,500.
Okay, questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Wentzville for a 2-inch asphalt overlay on Edingar Road at an estimated cost of $10,150, not to exceed the amount of $12,500. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Okay, bill number 3975 passes. Next for consideration is bill number 3976.
Bill number 3976, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute Surface Transportation Program Agreement Federal Project STP-7302635 with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for allocation of funds to 80% of the eligible cost up to a maximum amount of $316,800 for a new bridge on Kaplan Osage Road.
Okay, questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute Surface Transportation Program Agreement Federal Project STP-7302635 with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for allocation of funds to 80% of the eligible cost up to the maximum amount of $316,800 for a new bridge on Kaplan Osage Road. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Okay. Bill number 3976 passes. Next is bill number 3977.
Bill number 3977, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute Surface Transportation Program Agreement Federal Project STP-7302637 with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for allocation of funds to 80% of the eligible cost up to a maximum amount of $292,000 for a new bridge on Femi Osage Creek Road.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute Surface Transportation Program Agreement Federal Project STP-7302637 with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for allocation of funds to 80% of the eligible cost up to a maximum amount of $292,000 for a new bridge on Femi Osage Creek Road. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes. Bill number 3977 passes. Next bill is Bill 3978.
Bill number 3978, an ordinance waiving liquor license fees for certain concession operations of the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of St. Charles for the period July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2014.
Questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Cronin.
I would assume that since we're granting this to St. Charles, the parks departments of the larger cities like O'Fallon, St. Peters, and Wentzville would also have we would also consider to waive the fees for liquor licenses for their parks operations as well. Is that a fair statement to say?
We get a request from St. Charles every year, and some years we get requests from other cities, and they come before you as well.
Okay. So we're not just giving these folks special treatment. The other cities have the right to petition for the same thing.
As they come in from each city, we send them forth to the council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
I think the point is some of special nature is the family arena, and we reciprocally, don't we? Yes.
This predates the family arena.
Okay. They waive ours for the family. They waive ours, we waive theirs, so.
So we might not waive St. Peters or O'Fallon's.
Pardon me?
So we might not waive O'Fallon's or St. Peters?
Well, that would be up to you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, please call the roll.
An ordinance waiving liquor license fees for certain concession operations of the Park and Recreation Department of the City of St. Charles for the period July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2014. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Okay, Bill 3978 passes. Next is Bill 3979.
Bill number 3979, an ordinance approving an amendment of the intergovernmental agreement with the City of St. Charles for the extension of West Clay.
Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance approving an amendment of the intergovernmental agreement with the City of St. Charles for the extension of West Clay. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Okay, Bill number 3979 passes. Next is Bill number 3980.
Bill number 3980, an ordinance amending sections 600.010.b, 600.080.a, 600.140, 605.040, 607.030, 608.030, 610.025, 625.060, 625.070, 626.060, 630.060, 631.060, 632.060, 633.080, 635.060, 635.080, 635.090, 645.040, 650.020, ordinance of the St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, and repealing Section 610.025 OSCCMO relating to payment of all taxes as a condition for issuance of certain occupational licenses or permits by St. Charles County under Title VI OSCCMO.
Questions or comments on this particular bill? Mr. Cronin.
I would like just to make sure I'll vote for this with the understanding that the people will be able to, the applicants for these licenses and permits will be able to prove that they get their license and permits, that they paid their taxes at those specific facilities that they're applying to. And I think, Wayne, you'd indicated that wasn't a problem. When they come in to get a building permit, they don't have to go home, drive all the way back home and get their paid tax receipt. Your staff is going to be able to pull up that they paid their county tax records. Is that?
Just to remind the council of what has occurred with those ordinances, almost all of those were vetoed except for one. And what was left was some references to these sections that we created that were never passed. And so this ordinance based upon a finding of the auditor when he was going through our records in the building division, was identifying our ordinances were referring to sections that didn't exist. And so what this does is cleans up those ordinances, all resulting from, there must have been about three ordinances that were vetoed and never passed.
I agree that people ought to pay their taxes to get these licenses and permits, but what I don't want to have done is I don't want those folks inconvenienced. They paid their taxes, they come all the way down to the office to get the permit or license, and they don't have the right paperwork, and they got to go all the way back home. That's what I don't want to see.
Those ordinances don't exist. When they come to based upon our current set of laws, we do not check the sales tax, whether they paid their sales taxes or private property taxes. Those ordinances were never passed. They were vetoed.
They were never
enacted. Thank you.
You all passed them, but after the veto, you did not take them up to override them. So if they had been enacted, Mr. Cronin, the answer to your question would be yes, he would look them up, but he doesn't need to because they never went into effect. All those other ordinances.
I guess I'm kind of confused now, too. I mean, I voted no for those ordinances, too, and I appreciate Steve for vetoing them, but so what is this exactly doing then? I thought that this was cleaning up.
The one bill that was enacted, that was not vetoed.
This is for the
had some references in it to some parts of the law that were not enacted, and that's getting cleaned up.
But however, this ordinance still requires you proof of your property tax, no?
It's only for liquor licenses.
Unless you're already required.
Only for liquor licenses?
Is it only for liquor licenses? Is that what I'm reading
That's
here?
the only one that was left.
Yeah, that was the one that was left. Now, let me try to explain it. You got Bill A, B, C, and D. A, B, and C were vetoed, so never went into effect. D did go into effect, but D had references to A, B, and C. Okay? The section, a section in A or B or C. So if you're reading D by itself, you read these section numbers that don't exist. So I think it's all we're doing is taking them out. Right. And if your questions are about what was in D, quite frankly, I don't remember. But yeah, but we can find out for you.
So did I vote no for D back then?
I think so. I think you voted no on all of them, and I agreed with you on 3 of them.
So if I voted no for all 4 of them, then I would vote no for this. Is that right?
You would vote yes for this.
I think we're voting, on the paper, we're cleanup.
The other one's already in effect. You're not voting on that.
The ordinance are all done. We're just cleaning up the paperwork.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions or comments on Bill 3980? Okay, seeing none, I guess Carol has to read this one more time.
great job the first time.
An ordinance amending sections 600.010.b, 600.080.a, 600.140, 605.040, 607.030, 608.030, 610.025, 625.060, 625.070, 626.060, 630.060, 631.060, 632.060, 633.080, 635.060, 635.080, 635.090, 645.040, 650.020. Ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, and repealing Section 610.025 OSCCMO relating to payment of all taxes as a condition for issuance of certain occupational licenses or permits by St. Charles County under Title VI OSCCMO. Councilmember Brazel.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander.
Yes.
Councilmember Elam.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin.
Yes.
Okay, bill number 3980 passes, and the last bill for final passage is bill number 3981.
Bill number 3981, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a right-of-way relocation agreement between Truman Business Center LLC, Red State LLC, and the county pursuant to conditions set forth in said agreement and exhibits attached hereto.
Okay, questions or comments on 3981? Okay, seeing none, please.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a right-of-way relocation agreement between Truman Business Center LLC, Red State LLC, and the county pursuant to conditions set forth in said agreement and exhibits attached hereto. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Okay. Bill number 3981 passes. Next up, we have, I believe, 3 bills for introduction, starting off with Bill number 3982.
Bill number 3982, requested by Joe Cronin and Joe Brazel, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance adopting a revision to the master plan of the county of St. Charles, Missouri.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm open to Mr. Bamer's suggestion, if Don would like the development community to talk with the council before we pass this in the final form, and that's up to the chair what he wants to work that out with Mr. Bamer or not, but I think that might be a real good idea that Mr. Bamer came up with.
What I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, is to probably go ahead and pass the bill. The county executive has indicated in the past his preference for having annual reviews of the master plan. And I think perhaps if any changes are to be made with what is submitted to you now, that probably will evolve over a short period of time, or short to medium period of time. I think it's something you're probably going to want to consider, think about, talk with this planning staff. So I don't think there's any harm in approving this, and by the time that we get ready to do the plan for next year's review, you could be well within a good timeline for that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
If that meets with your approval.
I don't know that is there any deadlines that we have currently to pass this?
You have only
even
a deadline to review, if I remember correctly, the attorneys. By July 1st. You have to review.
Okay.
We're taking that means we have to start it by July 1st.
Yeah.
And we've done it tonight. And we've done it tonight.
Yeah, because this bill's only for introduction tonight, so there's a couple more weeks. I don't know.
So whatever your pleasure is will work out, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay. I think a lot of it depends on the timing of, whether or not we can get the people that we're talking about to come to, that are available, I guess, for a work session, prior to the time for the passage of this particular bill. Yes.
So I have a question. Does that mean if we do this work session, we find out something that we'd say, ooh, upon further review, we'd like to change something up in that, do we have to wait a year before we do that, or could we not go back and revise something at any given time at the approval of the council?
You can change it any other time. The charter just requires us to review it at least every 5 years. You can change it every meeting if you like.
So therefore, we could approve the review as stated in this bill, and then if we decide something further down the line, once the meeting gets scheduled, because I'm sure everybody's schedules with the summer, it's probably going to be really hard to make that happen in the short term. But rather than wait on that, we could go ahead and approve this. If we hear something later, we can always go back and revise it, correct?
Absolutely.
I think so.
Very well. Thank you.
Mr. Bamer?
No.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on bill number 3982? Okay. Next bill for introduction is bill number 3983.
Bill number 3983, request by Bob Schnurr and Rich Krismer, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance amending the 2013 budget of St. Charles County, Missouri, as adopted by ordinance 12-096 by appropriating additional revenues in excess of those estimated in the adopted 2013 general fund budget of the Election Authority Fund.
Okay. Questions or comments? Mr. Cronin?
My only question would be, it looks like this is an additional $69,500 to pay for a special election in the city of Lake St. Louis and Orchard Farm Fire District. And basically the bill states that the county will recoup that money from the city of Lake St. Louis and Orchard Farm Fire District. My only question would be to the Director of Elections, does the city of Lake St. Louis and Orchard Farm know that they've got a bill coming for $69,500?
Thank you, Mr. Cronin. They both have been received their bills already, and we will not hold the election until they write me a check. We have to have this authorization tonight because when I wrote my budget is not the budget you see. The budget I submitted was for 2 elections this year because I anticipated 2 elections this year. Well, only one election was funded. And so we didn't have enough money, so we have to have the money in the account and have to have approval of the council so that we can run the election in August. But I'll guarantee you, they don't write the check, they don't get an election. And we actually had that happen one time, but the school district, I won't mention which one it is to embarrass them, but they came up with the money.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, any other questions or comments on this particular bill? Okay, seeing none, next bill for introduction is Bill number 3984.
Bill number 3984, request by Steve Ellman and Tom Neer, sponsored by Terry Hollander. An ordinance, 1, authorizing the county executive to execute award of contracts and certified assurance documents from Missouri Sheriff Methamphetamine Relief Task Force, MoSmart, for receipt of funds from the Deputy Sheriff Salary Supplementation Fund, and 2, further amending Chapter 115 of Ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, relating to the basic pay plan for positions within the Sheriff's Department, and 3, further amending the 2013 budget adopted by Ordinance 12-096 by providing supplemental appropriation and transfer of funds to accommodate acceptance of a MoSmart grant, personnel changes, and increased concealed carry permit activity within the Sheriff's Department.
Okay, any questions or comments for the sheriff? Yes, Mr. Hammond.
With these grants, as I understand, there's an increase in the pay plan. Is that for only a 6-month period, or is it for a year, or is it? I'm kind of confused on this.
First one,
Yeah, come on up,
the sheriff
Sheriff.
sits on the board, he can probably tell you the.
The MoSmart grant runs from the fiscal, or the state fiscal year, whereas ours is different. So we're only funded for 6 months in this budget because the new grant starts July 1st. So that money has to be put into the budget to fund it for the rest of our year, which is the end of the state year, or first half of the state year.
Okay.
We're on a different cycle, and they won't put the money in until they know we got it.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, that is the final bill for introduction. Oh, yes.
I just want to congratulate the sheriff on bringing home a little more money this year.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any announcements? I have one, just a reminder to not only the council, but our audience that the next council meeting is Tuesday, July 9th, rather than on Monday, July the 8th. So we have made that change to kind of, accommodate a little bit of those that are going out of town for the 4th of July period of time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I also announce to anybody who might be listening that we have about 48,000 tons of free untreated for bugs mulch at 3 locations available on the website, but basically at the Family Arena, down on Greensbottom, and at our 94 facility just south of Highway 4061.
Okay.
And we're open from 7 until 6, I believe it is, now through Friday for anybody to come and take any portion of it. Be they private citizen, public company, we don't care. If they're willing to cart it away, we're happy to see it go.
Okay, so please
Have
be.
you had any activity on any of the piles so far?
I think there has been a little today, but the announcement just went out on Friday. We had to have FEMA observe the piles so that they knew what they looked like, because there's a pretty good correlation between the type of debris we had and how much the mulch piles, how high they get, how wide they get, et cetera. So they had to do a confirmatory
Well, our nursery guy had a bunch of equipment out there today trying to get it. Tandem loads trying to get out of there.
And the nurseries are all welcome to any
Sure.
portion of it that they want. We're happy to have them take it.
You've invited the cities, right?
We've invited anybody at all who wants it, so.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity if you need mulch. Okay. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.